Welcome back, everybody. We are back here, May 23rd, 1862. We've got the Army of Tennessee and the 6th Corps, I've renamed it, operating hopefully against the rebel army of the Mississippi here, 26,000 men. It looks like we're about to get into a fight with them. And we also have this cluster of rebel armies over here in a town, a town that's totally obscured, Pulaski, by the rebel armies operating within it. So the goal here right now is essentially, if we look at our front lines, right, I don't actually have adequate control of this region. There are too many rebel forces operating around here. I can't keep this consistently blue unless I occupy it entirely. So to that end, I have begun recruiting quite a few more men. I've got the 7th Corps under Timothy Andrews here that is recruiting. And ideally, I'll have Andrews as a sort of occupying force, based mostly down here out of Memphis. But I want to keep control of the Jackson Mills here, and I want to keep control of this telegraph station. The telegraph station right now, I'm severed from it, so all of my orders are going to be delayed pretty intensely. So I really need to make sure that I keep some force, even if it's just a really small one. Like, for instance, the Department of Missouri of this guy has only got a couple of hundred men attached to him. We've got Fremont's Frontier Corps over there, but I've got just this, and I want to keep that moving. I'm going to wait until Andrews is ready to go, and I'm going to move Andrews in to just sort of occupy this blob here. I think I ought to also get another river fleet. So let's take a look at fleets here. I've got plenty. Need a new fleet. I'm going to base it out of Cairo. And I'm going to build just a few 4th-rate steamers. Built 2 of those. I'm going to add just a ship's tender gunboat, a very cheap ship. And I think I'll give it a little bit of firepower with 1 gunboat. It's not much firepower, of course. It's barely even more than a 4th-rate steamer. I'll give him a 2nd-rate steamer. $239,000, 9 guns, can sail in sea and rivers. Let's do it. All right, so we'll call this is the Ohio Squadron so far. This will be built pretty soon, and mostly what I want to do is I want to use it to patrol down the Tennessee River, or I guess this would be up the Tennessee River, mostly to, again, assist in any of these operations that are happening over here in eastern Tennessee, and also to, again, keep an eye on these blobs of enemy activity that I do not want around. Fremont, I don't really want to move out of Missouri. I feel like he needs to be in Missouri to keep an eye out on all of these things. And I also think that part of the blob here, part of this salient of rebel territory, might be because they control these 2 little rivers. So if I were to capture, say, Batesville, that might push this whole territory down. This, of course, is not a terribly important thing. What's more important right now is opening up this area here because it's got the telegraph station. And I want to keep the telegraph station connected to the rest of my armies. Before I press play, I'm going to have to go check things over in the east. There is a lot going on. There's a ton going on in the Peninsular campaign that's happening over there. And I've been recording some videos of what's been going on over there, and I think I'm going to release them as just a second sort of additional tiny little campaign, sort of micro series covering the Peninsula campaign. So we'll see. But I'm gonna head over there and check things out, and I will likely be back quite soon because I have to deal with the Army of the Mississippi here, and probably come over here and deal with these 3 armies as well. So I'll see you in a few. So, some news here before I get started moving things around in late May 1862. The Confederacy is impressing their enslaved workforce. So, that is... I've never actually come across this in a campaign. This is the very first time I think I've ever seen this happen. So, interesting. So, the Confederacy will very likely have a pretty strong and very quick increase in manpower. But their support is going to plummet among their states. And if we look at our strategy here, it says we've ticked over from federal slight advantage to federal advantage. Again, our manpower is over them extremely. We've had 48 battles, like pretty large scale battles, in the course of the war over here. It's been barely a year. We've had 48 major battles, but you know, that's whatever. In any case, we're doing pretty well and where we want to be doing pretty well. And I will be engaging the Army of the Mississippi sometime soon. Just had a lot going on over there in the peninsula, as always. So let's see if we've got the Department of Missouri. Only a few men. I'm going to recruit more men into McDowell's army here. First one I'm going to do is add another division and then put it directly under McDowell. And I'm going to use him to recruit 3 more brigades of infantry. Got some men from Indian Territory. That's kind of neat. All right, some Indiana boys. Some Kentucky boys. And some Wisconsin boys. Okay. About 8 days, 11 days. Andrews is almost ready to move. Oh, okay. So something happened and our front line control ticked back over. So we have control of this telegraph now, which is good. And I'm going to get the Army of the Tennessee moving up here because I want to come and confront the Army of the Mississippi. I'm going to let that go. Western Army, 9,000 men here. Boy, they have a whole lot of men. I was really hoping to sort of push more straight down the Mississippi, but I've got to confront these forces over here in Nashville. There's no other solution. I have to do it. I'm gonna add I'm gonna give Thomas another division of infantry as well. So once again, I'm gonna see if I can recruit mostly Illinois, Indiana. There we go, Illinois, 1,800, not enough. Well, some boys, anyway. This Pennsylvania will work. Ohio will work. What about Tennessee? How are they doing? Tennessee's only 39 state support. But I'm gonna try it anyway. Had a question or two from some other folks watching the channel about All right, we got Thomas recruiting another division of infantry. I'm probably going to add another battery to them as well. And I got to rename this. I believe the 1st Delaware Battery. I usually give them light if they have anything under about 14 pounds. So 14-pound James are the last things I'll call light. Everything after that is heavy. It's not that important. It's just something I do. I'm going to move Thomas just a scotch closer here, because I want him to reinforce. I'd like to get, if he has any of his men who have not yet seen combat, I'd like them to see combat. All right, let's play some time. Oh, and the Western Army is making a run for Nashville. So I will get Thomas. I'm going to force march him back up there. And I'm going to get the 6th Corps to slam over here into this. And I'm going to look at these news reports. Polk is withdrawing. Elzey withdrawing. Burnside has arrived. And Harney has arrived. Okay, so stuff in the peninsula and back east is continuing. And it looks like we've got Grant's Army of Tennessee and the 6th Corps in contact with the 27,000-man Army of the Mississippi. So let's get into it. Battle of Waynesboro, once again on the Shiloh battle map. And I believe we ought to have, we've got both of our corps present right at the start of the battle. And we are defending, which isn't a bad place to be. And we are coming in from way up here in, this is actually the north. Unfortunately, we don't have a big deployment zone, so we can't kind of cheese the deployment at all. And it is a jungle map, which you know I'm not a super big fan of. But let's just sort of deploy our men. I expect they'll probably come down these roads from like Shiloh Church. The alternative is literally just marching through jungle across lots, and I doubt they're going to be doing that. But I'm going to take Lew Wallace, and I'm going to have Lew Wallace scout up the Corinth Road there, and I'm going to move my divisions just a bit closer. Again, I sort of expect them to be coming pretty much straight down. They haven't shown a ton of creativity about this so far. You know, who knows? I might be surprised. It's certainly possible. 1.07 has especially made the AI a bit more surprising at certain times. So that's, you know, that's great, to be honest. I love that. I think that's awesome. But yeah, I don't really expect to be very surprised, which is just where the AI wants me, I'm sure. Just where they want me. Anyway, so I'm going to let Wallace there do the scouting, and I'm going to leave Buford's cavalry back here as support and reserves in case I need them. And let's get started. Since they also don't have any of the other deployment zones on the map, I assume they're crunched down over here, which again means that we're likely going to have a long wait before we get into any action. So I'll see you as soon as there's something to talk about. Spotted them a little sooner than I expected. Make sure to get the Robinson out of there before he gets involved in anything that we might regret. And this is, okay, that is a little trail. Interesting. It ends right there, though. We can already see that they've got some brigades that are quite low in morale as well. So anyway, again, we will see you when there's something else to report. All right, looks like our first action over here is going to be against this rebel cavalry, rather. that is coming down this little road here, but we are probably coming up pretty close to end of day. So I wouldn't be surprised if much of the action is curtailed to wait till the next morning. I'm a little surprised they're overloading my left here. And I guess there it is, right? The surprise I said I wasn't confident in getting. But yeah, they're overloading my left flank. And there's the end of the day. So no need to really worry. I'm just going to shift my men slightly to my left. That's all I'm going to do. Just make sure they are not hampered by fences or rails or anything real goofy. I'm going to leave Buford back here, and I'm going to leave Crook on the other side of this little creek as well. And I'm not going to bother entrenching. There we go. It's like the enemy has not moved. Okay. Thanks to a stutter in my game, I did not see this cavalry charge at all, although I seem to have beaten it back handily enough. Putting my infantry here in square. I want to move my 3rd Michigan over here as well, really quickly. That was bizarre. Again, it's you know, it's my PC. My PC stutters really badly in this game, especially when I have large bodies of troops or a map that is overloaded with trees, as this one is. So let's get William H.L. Wallace. Get a move on over here and challenge Sem's cavalry. And we have broken them, thanks to the square. So I wonder, I'm actually going to look. I don't know. It does not, it doesn't actually give any... It doesn't seem like it gives any advantage to being in square. Any morale advantage, in any case, for being in square. And got to turn the Michigan right back around. I might actually deploy into square Ahead of time? Okay, what happened here? So a routed cavalry unit marched through the 4th Missouri and broke them. That's something I'm not a huge fan of. Because I've seen that happen before. Basically, like, any contact with anything will give you that debuff for being in melee. And even if it's a routed unit, that apparently will happen. So let's see if... And sometimes this rally doesn't work at all either. So, I don't know. I also just genuinely, like, cannot command my units because the game is so slow. It's running so badly on my PC right now. Java just generally running badly. Ooh. And yeah, my artillery also got pulled into this cavalry charge here. This might end up being terrifically bad. Yeah, my artillery routed, because of course they did. 3rd Michigan did fine. I really don't like losing my artillery, but let's see now if 3rd Michigan actually breaks after they're contacted by this routing. Yeah, see, they're engaged once again, so I've got that, they're still confident. They're doing fine. Good for them. I just like it is definitely a thing they have done in 1.07 to really buff, not only buff the cavalry, but also make cavalry charges much more likely. Commander of the 3rd Division has been wounded. Alright. But yeah, it makes the cavalry charges a lot more likely, and it makes... I'm dead certain they have buffed the morale on those charges to make them also more common and more successful when they do happen. So it's something to definitely watch out for and guard against in this patch, because it's happened pretty frequently, and it can sometimes start some pretty bad morale drops among your whole army. So it's something to watch out for. It seems like square formation helps. How much it helps, I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like it helps at least a little bit. Alright, try to sort this whole thing out here. I've got 1st Illinois under William Wallace. Got the 3rd Michigan under Sam Heyman. 1st Wisconsin under Eliakim. I don't know how to pronounce that. Again, we have to watch out here for cavalry charges. Bring Kentucky up here to support. actually going to form square as a precaution. Now, I have no idea if this is going to change the AI's behavior, right? If it's going to make the AI rethink making a cavalry charge. I have no idea. But it seems to, you know, I've done it a couple of times in the face of cavalry movements like that. And, you know, if nothing else, it seems to get the AI to sort of reconsider a little bit. Again, it might be purely luck. It might just be something that they're making a movement, so they might come, they might not. Don't know. Genuinely don't know. But at the very least, this you know, small change to the behavior of the AI has, it at the very least, seems to have made your formation use a little bit more important, and that's pretty interesting, I think. This is such a messy engagement. And all these orders are taking a million years because Crook is still so far away. Right up there, next to 5th Indiana to help support. Here's Morgan's brigade, and here's my cavalry. Literally, cavalry has arrived to save the day. So you got musketoons and Hall carbines, pretty well armed. My biggest complaint in this battle so far is that I wish my PC were better. I really wish I could run this a bit smoother. This probably isn't the most exciting thing to watch. Haybert's brigade making a pretty organized withdrawal here. It's genuinely nice to see the AI doing these maneuvers, right? Like using advance, using retreat, withdrawing smartly, intelligently, making interesting decisions with regard to withdrawing to positions of strength, and it's genuinely pretty cool. Scammon over here, fighting without much support, doing pretty well. I'm going to move the division commander over there to give him a bit of a buff, but he's going to beat back Baylor's brigade. 3rd Michigan doing splendidly. 1st Illinois getting in there. Enemy are withdrawing. We got 16.8% casualties, 3% from me. I doubt we'll be able to turn this into a major victory. But we still have quite a few troops engaged, and we have a lot of cavalry. So maybe we can get the cavalry to help speed things along over here in terms of these enemy withdrawals. I think what I'd really need now in order to turn this into a major victory is a couple of brigades to surrender. If I could get a couple of brigades to fully surrender, I think that would clinch it. But I doubt that's going to happen. But no reason to stop trying. Hey, look at that. Crawford's battalion. That was only an artillery battalion, so unfortunately that doesn't mean that we're going to take a major victory here. I was hoping it was Finnegan's brigade over here. But Crawford's battalion whipped out. That's all right. I'll take that. And we're not even causing any casualties here. We've got 3 cavalry brigades chasing this brigade, and they haven't inflicted a single casualty yet. Again, they've turned all the fleeing units into airbenders. Look at that. They're just going to be chasing them for hours. And not a single casualty. Nope. And even in all that last stuff, not even a few casualties. But oh well, minor victory near Waynesboro. We're gonna watch probably their very odd retreat path. Captain Russell, unfortunately, is our artillery commander, who was unfortunately driven away by that bizarre cavalry charge. But we're back on the campaign map here. We've got to move the Army of Kentucky back to Nashville. And we're going to watch the Army of the Mississippi withdraw, back down here to Pulaski. I'm really hoping Thomas is going to have very low readiness by the time he reaches Nashville. So I wonder if he'll even be able to engage. But it seems like my 7th Corps here under Andrews is destined to come down and try to hold Memphis, while I continue to move Grant and the Army of Tennessee in to deal with... Okay, the Western Army is withdrawing, so I'm actually going to take Thomas out of forced march, because that'll just make his men more sad. Let's halt them. And I have got to go check on things back east. I will be right back. Another engagement here, Army of Kentucky against the Western Army. It looks like I've got a sad brigade. I'm wondering who that might be, as a matter of fact. I can't go into the order of battle at the moment. It might be... Boy, this is a weird one, huh? So I've got one of my... Well, we'll see. The Western Army is not many. I outnumber them in every significant factor. And yeah, well, let's get to it. We have landed ourselves into some trouble. My still forming Army of Kentucky has to deal with some secesh over here near Nashville. So I'm glad I am off the jungly version of the Nashville map and back onto, this is Murfreesboro. Still a Tennessee. And it's looking like, let me check on this sad brigade here. None of them, in fact, are sad at all. All of their morale is all, at the very least, stable. Huh. Interesting. Well, basically, this is going to be a very similar pattern to most of the battles that we've seen so far. I'm going to go ahead with McClernand here and scout. Going to find out where their positions are. I assume they're going to be pretty close to their victory point here. But I outnumber them, so it makes my job pretty easy. I'm just going to have them get on the pikes, take the Murfreesboro Pike to the Wilkinson Turnpike, and then take that in for the thing. I will see ya when there's something to do. As I suspected, the Secesh set themselves up to oppose the crossing right over here, right by the Wilkinson's Crossroads or Victory Point. So, I believe what I'm going to do is take my infantry division under Dan Tyler, and I'm going to bring them up here by this road. I'm going to get them onto the Asbury Courthouse Road, I guess. That doesn't have a road here. But I'm going to cross to their north. I'm going to oppose them back here by Vata. Once they get misdirected and turned around to engage my artillery and my infantry that crosses here, I'm going to cross with my cavalry. So I have this force is fairly flexible. It's well led. Most of the men are fairly experienced, if not perked. Well, in fact, actually, they have very little experience. They are well led. All of their morale is confident. And this is not a necessarily arduous task for them to do. It, you know, I've got the issue whenever you're making decisions tactically like this is you never want to do too much, right? You never want to get too cute. I don't want to cross here because they're opposing it with entrenchments. That's bad. I could soften it up with artillery, but because we have trees in the way, the line of sight is not really guaranteed. So I want to cross up here. They can't oppose both crossings, right? But you also very seldom want to take the chance to split your forces like this. But because we outnumber them, because we have a good command structure, because you know we are not actually going miles apart in these crossings, I can try to coordinate both forces this way. And because my order of battle is set up in the very particular way that I've set it up, I can give orders to my cavalry pretty quickly. So I can try this sort of double envelopment cross sort of a thing. And I mean, ideally, I'm going to turn my artillery off fire at will for now. I just don't want them to open up too soon. Okay. But yeah, so I can come across here because I know they can't oppose my crossing with any kind of strength. It's going to take them a long time to turn around and reorient and come all the way back down here. At worst, they can turn their guns and fire at me from pretty long range, which I'm okay with. But the timing is going to be pretty important here, because I don't want to rush my cavalry across, and I certainly don't want to get my infantry sort of cut off and hotly engaged before I can really start the engagement the way I want to. Because what I want to do is let my artillery fire for a bit. I want to get my infantry, recollected, right? I want them to be rested, and I want their cohesion to be good. We've got it disrupted here under Kenley because they're trying to cross at the same time as these cannons. But so once these cannons deploy, I'm going to push them a little forward to these trees, and I'm going to tell them to fire counter battery fire, because I want to take out the enemy artillery. And it looks like our cohesion has built back up. That's great. These guys up there. And it's looking so far like there are no surprises waiting for me. All right, put Sykes on a counter battery fire. He's got Napoleons. Napoleons are, they're not great counter battery guns, but they'll do the job. And I'm putting my skirmishers out because skirmishers tend to pull aggro from enemy guns. All right, so they're not listening to me. Although maybe they haven't received the order yet. They caused a few casualties, that's good. Oh, they're already withdrawing. Interesting. And they also had a hidden brigade back there. Okay, now my artillery is concentrating on their artillery. It also looks like we might get a day 2 or an early withdrawal. Skirmishers in. They don't know what they want to do. Or my infantry to take cover in the trees. Along the fence, rather. And their artillery is still firing at my skirmishers. This is something I hope the devs address. As I've mentioned a couple of other times before, I'm not a big fan of how the skirmishers sort of instantly and aggressively pull the attention from other better targets. Looks like the enemy have withdrawn somewhere. Not sure where. Couldn't have been too far. They still do own the victory point. And they still have just as many men on the field. There they are. I think it's about time to start the general engagement here. Pretty brutal little fight. Second Missouri Cavalry having some conniptions over here. Gave them 2 flanking fire debuffs, and neither of them, after being remounted, want to do anything. So, alright. Well, let them go. It was a good enough victory. 1,200 casualties for my 488. Not the worst ever. Should definitely not have taken that long to get those orders, but what are you going to do? And again, Willard here. They're Missouri cavalry. That could be part of it. Missouri doesn't have the greatest state support. All right, so like we said, 1,300 casualties for fewer than 500. I'll take that. Victory at Nashville Port. Take it. Army of Kentucky, I hope, gets a chance to rest. And now, if I recall correctly, there were a whole mess of rebels just sitting right over here that I've suddenly lost sight of. I hope they're not doing their famous teleportation across the map. That would be a little annoying. Phil Kearney has a perk. His 6th Corps. We've got Ambulance Corps, Flying Column. I think I'm going to give him Embedded Reporters. Alright, let's advance some time here. Okay, so they do still have quite a few men that were sitting here at Pulaski, but they are heading up toward Nashville. Thomas is not ready enough to deal with this. He's very likely going to be pushed back into a withdrawal. But I'm going to move my Army of Tennessee down to Pulaski. I'm going to march north up to Nashville, because I will lose Nashville. There's basically no chance. The only chance that I have here is that I can maybe get the entrenchment. I'm going to set them to defensive, as a matter of fact. Okay, so I can't get defensive, and I can't deploy as a siege. And, you know, to be honest, despite the fact that this is a tutorial campaign, I'm not certain what the conditions need to be in order to create the, you know, deploy for a siege sort of situation. I'm not 100% sure what that is. On the other hand, that's only about 15,000 men, and in a few days, right, when I can get my a few more brigades under George Thomas here to actually deploy, I would be able to fight this. But as now, I have to withdraw. I've got no other choice in the matter. And man, they have a whole mess of armies down here. Kind of an absurd number, if you ask me. I also don't understand. I don't understand why Thomas isn't moving. So how long do we have until he gets 14 days, 7 days? So in 2 weeks, he'll have his whole division. Well, things could be going better. To be honest, I wish I wasn't fighting in Tennessee. I wasn't intending to fight in Tennessee all that much. I want to go down the Nile. I want to go down to Vicksburg, and I want to get down to New Orleans. And all of this whole campaign here is a distraction. So I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pause. We're going to engage in probably some quite large battles here pretty soon. But I'm going to create, in Indiana, or in Kentucky, I'm going to create a brand new army. A whole brand new army. Now, finance-wise, I've got 41 million in the till. I've got a lot of money I can spend right off the bat to create an army, but I'm also going to transfer in some veteran units from elsewhere. So for now, military panel, recruit a new army. Now this will be created at the level of an army, meaning that I'm going to have an army commander who will be basically in charge of several different corps. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So we're going to start in Kentucky. So we have Alexander Hayes. He doesn't look so bad. I will very likely replace all of the officers of this. But for now, I'm going to create just a single corps. And we'll start with just 2 divisions for now. Once again, these guys are just placeholders. I just want to make sure we get some men in the army first. I'm going to recruit 1 fresh unit in each division, and then I'll transfer another unit into each division. So let's start with Ohio. They're pretty close by. Michigan doesn't have enough to have a full brigade, so I'll save them for a bit, and we'll get a Pennsylvania brigade in here too. Let's see if we have any available men from... I think Joe Hooker. I think I'm going to make Joe Hooker basically the leader of this whole army. And I'd like a couple of his veteran units to come over here first. Let's see. We've got the Department of Missouri. So we do have a few. We've got Andrews here, 14th Pennsylvania. These guys are still recruiting. But I'm going to transfer over the 14th Pennsylvania to Couch. And it's Andrews. Okay. Let's see how these guys do in Tennessee itself for now. Okay, so the transferring so far has been done. Okay, they are recruiting here Army of the Cumberland, that's what I'd want to call it. And they're right here in Covington. I just want to move them sort of off of each other so I can actually see. And you can actually see now that we have a different... We've got the first corps. And actually, I'm going to have to take this opportunity to go and... Polk. Virginia, okay. I'm going to go through and rename all of my corps from basically the Army of the Potomac's First Corps, Second Corps, Third Corps, and on throughout all of the armies. So I don't want the corps to be corps of the Army of the Cumberland. It's like it'll be like the 12th and the 13th Corps in the Army of the Cumberland. The corps will be the sort of independent units. But these guys have to, for now, all they have to do is recruit. And I will likely sort of swap officers off screen because that's just, it's not a very difficult process, and it's also not very interesting. All right, so the Army of West Tennessee. Somehow Thomas is still just barely moving. Although his strength is coming up. I'm going to have to march basically through this first and then back up to Nashville. So that is where everybody's going. That's good. Supply situation for these guys is pretty good. All right, let's get the Army of the Tennessee into action here. And it looks like they are all withdrawing. Interesting. Kind of didn't expect that. I thought they'd put up a fight. I don't think he can move until his readiness stabilizes. I'd like to move him. Yeah, I'd like to move him farther away, unfortunately. Because they're withdrawing, okay, they're withdrawing quite a bit. So I'm actually going to order Thomas to retreat. So we'll watch what happens. The difference between a withdrawal and a retreat. A withdrawal, you sort of, you withdraw, right? You withdraw in good order. You move fairly close. You don't go too far. On a retreat, on the other hand, you march quite far away. And of course, I've been interrupted by another battle back in the peninsula, or near the peninsula. And hopefully we can come back and see where Thomas... Okay, we can actually see where Thomas is going. See, with the retreat, he's actually retreating precipitously. He's moving quite fast all the way back to Hartford, Kentucky. So I want him out of the region. I don't want them to be kind of buzzing attacks at him anymore. And I want to keep his army together. Now, he's taking quite a lot of casualties, and a lot of these are because of wounds he took in the last battle and various other things. But I want him out of there. It's going to do some harm to his readiness, of course, and it's going to kind of hurt the morale, and it's not a good thing to do, but he needs to get out of there. Otherwise, he's just going to keep getting hammered over and over with these attempted attacks all the time. But I've got to head over and deal with another battle near Richmond, so I will be right back. So after a few days, we have advanced into Pulaski, and it looks like we've got the Army of West Tennessee is coming down and just bouncing off of my Army of Tennessee. And now, the tricky strategic issue here is that if I march up with my Army of Tennessee and I bounce these guys around, because none of them are, I think many of them don't have the readiness to actually make a stand-up fight in Nashville. I don't want them to retreat northward. I want them to retreat southward, and I want them to actually retreat back toward the Mississippi. I'd like to bottle them up that way if I can. The issue is the enemy doesn't often do what you want them to do. Very seldom does the enemy do what they want you to do, as we can actually see by this Army of Mississippi here, 14,000 men, eventually 11,000 men, who's once again coming to occupy this corner of southwest Missouri, that they really love for whatever reason. So I'm going to have to do a lot more organization and scattering of troops out through this whole department here, because I only have a small number of men. And once again, we're interrupted by stuff back east. Okay, folks, I'm going to call it there. Thank you once again for watching, and I promise the next couple of episodes we're going to get away from this constant interruption from the Peninsula Campaign, because the Peninsula Campaign has come to an end, finally, in June of 1862. So we'll finally get back to not being spammed all the time with the need to go attend things back east. So we'll settle into a bit more of a groove. But once again, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and I'll see you next time.